This year will see the addition of quite possibly the biggest change Odyssey's on-foot gameplay has seen since its launch in 2021, the Operations Update. In this video we'll explore what its deployment means for the fortunes of Elite Dangerous and just why it could be so important for the future of the game. It's been 2 years now since Frontier successfully turned around the fortunes of their genre-defining flagship, space trading, combat and exploration simulator Elite Dangerous. Since the launch of the early access ships model, the revenue that the game generates for its Cambridge development house has expanded to the point where it's now directly fueling a steady stream of updates, improvements and new features. The 8 new ships that launched into the game in the last 2 years have been, in and of themselves, a huge boon to the game's commanders, whilst also stirring something of a resurgence among lapsed players, as well as bringing in new players keen to see what the fuss is about. As the game enters the 3rd year of what has become an almost second life for itself, the question has to be asked: how much longer can new ships alone sustain any future development and support? This does appear to be a question that FDev themselves have also wrestled with. Late last year, adjacent to the launch of the Caspian Explorer, Frontier also dipped a toe into the waters of early access starports with the launch of the Dodec. Having launched 8 new ships, the issue FDev are now faced with is the danger of doubling up on role specific functionality for a new ship that has already been catered for with a recently released ship that players could have potentially paid for to gain early access. Realistically, is anyone really going to be interested in gaining early access to a medium size SCO capable hauler while the Type 8 exists? The Mandalay has medium sized exploration more than covered, and the Python Mark II is a largely unmatched SCO capable medium combat vessel, etc. There is room for slightly different flavours of existing vessels, but it's an inevitability that your potential marketplace for a new ship will shrink when duplicating some roles. There are of course still roles to be filled for next gen ships. We've not yet had an SCO passenger vessel or large dedicated combat ship for example, but the options are definitely thinning. There are always the more curiously named ships from the previous generation that could potentially take advantage of a fresh lick of SCO paint. These would perhaps also benefit from a ship specific module or two to further enhance their role functionality, something we've seen to great fanfare and success with the Panther Clipper, Type 11 and Caspian. The 2 choices that immediately spring to mind, and the regular viewer to this channel will know are also somewhat of a bugbear of mine, are the Federation gunship and the Federation dropship. 2 ships that very specifically do not perform the role that the 21st century naming conventions they have chosen would seem to imply that they should. Wikipedia defines a gunship as a military aircraft armed with heavy aircraft guns primarily intended for attacking ground targets either as airstrikes or as close air support, certainly not something that would be specifically chosen for a ship-to-ship role. A quick Google will inform you that in science fiction, a dropship is a versatile, often heavily armed military spacecraft designed to transport troops, vehicles and supplies from a larger orbiting mothership down to a planet's surface. In Elite Dangerous we have a dropship that can't realistically drop anything useful anywhere. It only has 2 seats in it, so you're not even dropping a 3-man on-foot team, let alone a full troop deployment. And whilst you could drop an SRV like the Scorpion into a conflict zone or settlement raid, in reality the available gameplay isn't, yet at least, really designed for it. In both cases it's worth noting as well that these are medium class ships. Scale in Elite Dangerous is often difficult to take in, but on a very basic level these 2 vessels alone are huge, both being very roughly of a size comparable to something like a Boeing 747. It is for this very reason in fact that when Elite Dangerous had a requirement to summon up multiple dropships for the deployment of troops into surface conflict zones, it converted the Vulture heavy fighter for the job. A federal dropship is larger on its own than some entire settlements, and the airspace around those sites wouldn't be able to support more than one at a time. It would be like using an Airbus A380 to do the school run. As I've also touched on, the gameplay for these two ships, so monikered at least, doesn't really exist in Elite Dangerous. There's no player controlled dropship role available and no surface attack gameplay that would demand the use of a gunship, at least not yet. Which brings me back to the year ahead and the next update into the game, Operations. Whilst we've been well served for medium and large vessels, with a couple of roles at least yet to be filled, no small class vessels aside from the Cobra Mark V for the game's 10th anniversary have yet made it into the new next generation lineup. In a recent interview about Operations conducted by industry veteran Charlie Hall and posted to the Epic Games site, executive producer on Elite Dangerous Gautier Vercaer noted that coupling on-foot gameplay and in-ship gameplay in the same environment has proven challenging for the company because of the size issue. If FDev is to introduce more new ships this year, does this mean that 2026 could be the year of the small ship? Whilst Operations doesn't apparently solely concern itself with on-foot gameplay, it's undoubtedly a significant component of it, and it follows then that if FDev are struggling to find a place for Elite's large ships, at the very least in that environment, wouldn't the somewhat maligned small class of vessel be about to come into its own? We've already seen a small dropship make sense in the Elite universe, and it goes without saying that in the real world, surface attack helicopter gunships are very specifically not made to be deliberately huge, small, nimble and more difficult to detect being the order of the day. That would put FDev in the position of being able to create gameplay that benefits greatly from a smaller vessel and then supplying early access to a ship that ever so slightly excels in that role. That's all of course without talking about new functionality based spacesuits, on-foot weapons and surface vehicles. If this is indeed the solution to any near future ship fatigue problems, then it's going to be absolutely key that there is content, i.e. operations, there to receive those new on-foot tools. And this is all without even talking about the somewhat stagnant commander and suit customization section on the ARC store. By our reckoning, the last new spacesuit appearance on the store was in August of 2023 when the Nomad Liaison Pack launched. It's understandable that that particular section of the store would be underutilised at the moment if there isn't a hugely compelling reason for commanders to get out on foot, particularly when cooperating in combat with teammates. Then there won't be a particular player impetus to explore looking fabulous. The point I'm making with all this is that as well as being an obviously important expansion to the breadth of content that Elite Dangerous provides to its players, Operations is going to be hugely important to Frontier. If successful, it will add some significant extra value to the Odyssey expansion by opening new avenues and opportunities for FDev to monetize on-foot gameplay specifically. Any gameplay that further expands on the early access model that has proven to be so successful for the company is going to be what drives the game forward, keeping development and support funded for the players. Also, if the hype around a successful Operations launch is loud enough, it will undoubtedly bring back more lapsed players and also bring in further tranches of new players, all of which feeds back into those all-important profits and future development loops, something that we saw to great effect with power play and colonisation. Operations represents the best opportunity for Frontier so far to help Odyssey finally realise its full potential. They've promised to talk more about Operations and the year ahead for Elite Dangerous in February. What new ships would you like to see this year? Would you like Frontier to also introduce new spaceships, weapons and SRVs? And what new gameplay would you like to see from Operations? Let us know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe to the channel so that you see all our videos and community posts, and if you'd like to support our work here at the Burr Pit, you can also join us on Patreon. Links to that and everything else we've talked about in this video you'll find linked below. That's it for now. Thanks very much for watching. We very much look forward to seeing you next time.